Our new song is available for pre-order at getcominghome.com. Check it out. Download iTunes to pre-order and support our work. I gotta say, I don't completely agree with his framing and phrasing of this, but I understand what he's trying to get to. So we'll talk about this one just because it covers AI as well as the abortion debate. And this is actually the biggest. I actually think abortion for the Democrats is probably the biggest issue. It's their cultural attack vector. Mm-hmm. Andrew Tate made this video. He says AI is the future. A machine read my Twitter, created this video, and then made this post all on its own. You need AI to begin living your life for you if you want to get ahead. Kind of a creepy thing. I am not a. We'll break this one down. But he made this video, and it's actually kind of crazy that this was made by an AI. Check this video out.
That's it, Sarah. Try to get your bottom.
Okay, for those that are just listening, I'll give you the quick version. It's only 20 seconds. It shows a picture of, it's a video of a woman when she's pregnant. It shows a baby apparently being born. She's then laying with her baby in a pool or in a bath. She's singing to her child and reading a story. Then it says, "This could have been you," with a woman in an office surrounded by files and paperwork. Then her miserable looking, sitting on a subway in the rain. It says, "It's not worth it. Peak female performance is pregnancy." I'm not a big fan of the phrasing, but I understand the idea he's trying to get across. It's also insane that an AI just generated this video, but I get his message. And, I thought it was interesting when you guys were talking about the abortion debate, what feminism is. You were mentioning just a moment ago that they tell feminism is basically being in an office and being a girl boss. Yeah. And it's actually kind of scary because, look, I don't care what you do. If you ladies that are listening, you do whatever you want. Okay, fine by me. But understand, there was that cover of the magazine. You guys remember it? And she's like, "I froze my eggs. Women can have it all." A few years later, when she tried unfreezing the eggs to have kids, they were all destroyed. And she said she screamed like a wild animal, realizing she would never be a mother. So just understand, there is their weird Malthusian move to convince women in any possible way not to have families.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, I think this video should be played on every single mainstream network and actually wake up the feminists that are locked into their laptops for 9 to 5, 8 hours a day that have been lied to climb this corporate ladder to equal success, when in reality, they'll never actually be fulfilled. Because I truly believe that full fulfillment for women will come through motherhood. And even feminists, they will be leftist their whole life, all of a sudden get married, have kids, and their life completely changes and hormonal balances in women. And it's like women have truly gotten the short end of the stick when it comes to society because we've been lied to for so long and convinced that true happiness is doing what we want. And it's very individualistic instead of looking forward of what does my future look like and how am I actually going to give back and raise the next generation. But it's true. Like, why are we allowing women to sit at desks for 8 hours a day and then send their kids off to daycare, send their kids off to be raised by somebody else that's not them? This is not how you have a functioning society. Functioning societies and restoring Western civilization towards the future is going to be through the nuclear family.
Right. One of the big lies that feminists, I think, gave to women when they were pushing for equality was that men and women are essentially the same and you should be able to do everything a man can do, and they shouldn't hold you back and whatever else. And the reality is that we're totally different. We are biologically different, and that's why all women have to ask themselves at some point, am I going to prioritize having a family and children? Men have to ask themselves this too, to a certain degree. They have to make time to get married and be there for their wives and their children, but they are able to reproduce for a lot longer than women. Yeah. And so they don't have the same kind of constraints. They navigate their lives differently. Yeah. I think one of the problems, one of the lies that we hear all the time is like that the fact that you can carry a child is somehow kind of this weird burden. And
but it's not.
No, it's not. And Mindy Kaling put out this, she was interviewed and she said one of the best things that parents could do for their college-age daughter was to offer to freeze their eggs for them. Forget the fact that freezing your eggs involves intense hormonal treatments, is expensive, would mean that you would later have to go through IVF, another round of intense hormonal treatments. Any kind of hormonal treatment comes with certain risks that they're not talking about. It makes it so that women are told, ignore this, I would think, a gift that you have that men can't do. They cannot bear children. I think that's really special that women are able to do that. But also, act like it is the burden of your life and avoid it at all costs.
Right.
And I
Instead
think
of a
that's a
gift.
lie. I just think that's dumb. I think it will lead to a lot of people being unhappy, not just women. I think there are men who fall in love with women who are like, well, I don't want to have kids for 10 years. And they naively are like, okay, I'll go along with it. And then they unfortunately cannot have children as a couple. And that's sad, right?
Not to mention how corporations are pretty much incentivizing women to go the IVF route and freeze their eggs, and de-incentivizing motherhood, especially when it comes to maternity leave, and then, giving women the opportunity and paying for abortions in other states, whatever it may be, to where they are taking away a woman's really inherent desires, and incentivizing. Actually, no, instead, stay working at my company.
And make more money for Big Pharma.
Yes.
Great. Good job, women.
Awesome.
Nice.
There was a great post by Cernovich where he was basically saying that dudes will be man-children forever without women. That basically women are the ones who go to men and say, it's time to be a dad, it's time to be a man and do these things. And then guys say, okay, for the woman. But he was talking about, and I could be getting a little bit of it wrong, but I'm trying not to misquote him, that, guys are going to be successful, they're going to make money, and they're going to be like, why change anything I'm doing? I've got everything I want. But then you wake up at 40, like, oh, crap. Where it used to be a woman would be in her 20s and she'd be like, time to settle down, dude. But now we're in this era of, I don't know, anybody can do whatever they want whenever they want. Abortions is contraception. There's no repercussions. So now there's quite literally no reason to become an adult.
Yep.
And we're looking at a collapsing birth rate. I was talking to a friend just a moment ago about why we're seeing this mass influx of with temporary protected status and illegal immigration. It's actually quite simple. It's all tied together. The mass spending on the Ukraine war, as well as other wars, requires that we, as long as we're going to keep printing and spending money to control for inflation, you need massive economic growth. You need to bring in tons of people who are going to meet the demand of that mass spending so that things kind of level off. So what do? They open up the borders. This is the machine they've built. The government wants to create debt out of thin air to fund their wars, so they flood the country with non-citizens. Meanwhile, the American culture in the corporate press, Hollywood, and music promotes a lifestyle that prevents people from having families. So it's almost like this machine. Some people believe it's an intentional Malthusian thing, but I don't know if I believe that, because at the same time, they're bringing in mass migration to replace the workers that should have been from parents in America.
Yeah. It's like we don't value ourselves as a country, right? I think some of the lie that we get told from the media is there's no American culture, or like it's stuff that you make fun of, right? It's McDonald's and being overweight or whatever. But the reality is we don't have a culture because we don't cultivate it at home. And if we cultivate it at home, then we have something to protect and promote and to pass down. Right. But then we would need people to pass it down to. And so you're seeing where I'm coming from when I say
we're not going to have anybody.
We're not doing all the things we need to have and protect the culture that I think a lot of people worked really hard to establish and create in this country.
Well, also increasingly, younger generations are less proud of America. And I do think that that's a fundamental problem, because if there's no pride in your country and actually loving the place that you live, then how are you supposed to continue to pass that down to further generations? And also, I wanted to touch on economically in our country, we've gotten to a place where double income, no kids. You have dinks walking around where they don't want to have children, but they feel like they can't afford it, which is also another lie that I think has been sold to women and men, is that, well, kids are just so expensive. I'm never going to be able to afford them the lifestyle that I want to get them. So let's just not have kids. And I don't think that that's a way to win society back.
I saw a crazy post where it was like, doctors find a living baby in a dumpster. And some liberal responded with, crazy what happens when you force people to give birth to children. And it's like, what's the argument then? Kill the baby before it came out so it doesn't die in a dumpster? Like, both are really bad, dude.
Yeah.
And we have an adoption system. There's private adoption. You could put your kid in foster care. Like, you don't have to leave your baby in a dumpster.
You put them on a fire department stoop.
Right. They make special baby boxes so that this child does not doesn't die of exposure. I think that's a crazy argument.
Right.
I think the reality is you have to take responsibility for your actions, and having a loophole like, well, I should be able to pretend like this never happened, even though, I think they aren't honest about the emotional consequences and definitely not the physical consequences of abortions. It's like deleting a period of your life that you don't care about. I saw this clip from that's that show, Sex and the City. Mm-hmm. And one of the characters is pregnant, I guess, and she doesn't know if she wants it, and one's upset because she has infertility. And then one of them is like, look, it's super normal. I've had 2 abortions. How many have you had? And the other girl's like, 1. And I kept thinking this is weird. And I'm pretty sure most of those women end up childless at the end of the show. I've never seen the whole series, but...
Sad.
Weird that this would be what we're promoting.
No, but that's what Hollywood will continue to do, because think of how many women have watched that show and it continues to normalize. Well, it's okay if you want to continue to party with your girlfriends and be in your 30s and have no kids, when in reality that's just depressing and sad.
I don't want to sound a little bit too out of touch, but as far as political issues that actually mobilize women or young people generally, this is the thing. Like, people aren't voting on a lot of other issues, especially young people or women generally. If you're not very involved in politics and you hear about this issue, this will be something that'll actually mobilize you, not whatever's going on in Ukraine, not like the economy a little bit one way or another where you don't think it's a big deal. It's like, oh, my ability to potentially go get an abortion in case I get knocked up by a dude that I don't want to keep his baby with is the situation that
like I said, I think it's because, especially because it's expansive, right? When the Roe decision ended, I remember getting my hair cut and the girl being like, well, my sister had a miscarriage and now she wouldn't be able to get the procedure that helps, like if you're far enough along, you need to surgically remove the baby from the uterus after it's...
which is not an abortion.
Right? It's not an abortion. And I remember looking at her, I was like, well, that's not really the same thing because that baby has passed, sadly. Like, it's a miscarriage. And it's because the messaging is like they're coming for everything. They're coming from the birth control pill
women
your
will
doctor,
have no
to
rights.
everything. Like, women will have no rights. And I think that you're totally right. It's the fear mongering. But again, like, that's actually very abusive of a political party to be like, you are under such threat, you have to go to the polls.
Thanks for checking out this clip from Timcast IRL. Make sure to watch the show live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Subscribe to this channel, and we will see you all there.